Well, speaking of Eskom, workers there have reported for duty today after a days-long unprotected strike. It's all over wages. The country was plunged into the dark more frequently last night due to stage 6 load shedding. South Africans have been dealing with a long history of protest action over the years. But with a no work, no pay policy during strike action and the possibility of dismissal for embarking on a wildcat strike, what motivates workers to risk it all and down tools? Let's speak about this with social activist Trevor Ngwane. Good to have you on the program as always, Mr. Ngwane. Let's start right there. We've seen now in the case of Eskom, workers who went on an unprotected strike, which will cost them wages. We saw similar scenes at Sibanye around June, where workers basically stayed away from their posts for about a month until they were satisfied with the offer from the employer. What is informing this? What does it tell us about the relationship between the two groups?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Chambeile. Well, look, the working class, especially employed workers in South Africa, are in crisis. But remember also there is the pressure of a huge size of unemployed workers. So those unemployed workers are, in a way, a burden on the employed because they have to share their wage with, their families, their friends who don't have income. And also, there is a rising cost of living, escalating food prices, etc., etc. So I think workers are desperate everywhere.
So you've got workers who say, hang on a minute, we've either not been given increases in about 2 to 3 years. Employers are saying, well, because of the pandemic, we don't have money to pay you any sort of increase, or at least not what you're asking. You've got a rising cost of living. These three factors, all of them playing out at the same time. Where is breaking point, do you think?
Well, one breaking point is the fact that the bosses are laughing all the way to the bank, as we saw with the Sibanye Stillwater case where, the CEO paid himself 300 million rands, Also, if you look at Eskom, the CEO, the management, they pay themselves a lot of money. But globally, the bosses, the capitalist class, they are on strike. They are not paying their taxes. So there are many ways in which, they are ducking, paying taxes to governments, tax havens, whatever. Moreover, they are also sitting on money. They are not investing on production. They are investing on, let's say, financial instruments. So they're trying to make money through financialization. So that's the problem. Workers are working hard. The bosses are laughing all the way to the bank and then saying, you workers, you must sacrifice.
What is then the solution? What can workers do? Are strikes still an effective way of putting pressure on the employer? I mean, it's one thing for Eskom because then there's national outrage. But for other companies, we've seen them very much continue with the business of the day or make up the losses.
Well, workers' last resort actually is their strength, their sweat, their muscles. So strikes will continue. The only worrying thing in South Africa is this attack on the right to strike. So, for example, recent strikes, at ArcelorMittal, Impala Platinum, even the public sector wage increment, which was in a way sabotaged by the government. These bosses now, they run to the law courts and get interdicts. So basically, the workers' power on strike is being undermined by the law courts. So I think that we should look into that to make sure that, workers are not penalized by the judicial system.
There was an appeal, right, when the mine workers were striking around the end of May to early June. That ultimately culminated in the president being booed at the Workers' Day rally that he went to in the Northwest. And one of the appeals was for the president to intervene. That then it then got action, I should say, from the Minerals Minister, Gwede Mandashe, who then basically intervened and ultimately a solution was found. What can government do at this point?
Well, unfortunately, the ANC government is what we can call a boss's government. I mean, on all fronts, dancing to the music, to the guitar of the bosses. Indeed, our own president is a billionaire, so he belongs to that class. But I do think that, the Constitution, also the history of our struggle, indicates that, let's take Eskom. There can be no solution without employed workers, without unions being part of that solution. I think, Tembekile, that this strike as Eskom, helped guys like me who are always toying, saying, hey, the poor people, the grannies, they need cheap or free electricity. So we tend to focus on consumption, but actually the solution to the energy crisis lies in production. We must generate more energy. So that solution requires employed workers. It requires those who are working.
Trevor Ngwane, good to have you on the program as always. Thank you.